Good morning and welcome. This is Harriet Spate from Governance Services. Under agenda item number 1, Councillor Flynn was nominated as chair prior to the start of the meeting. Are all members agreeable? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Great, thanks. Councillor Flynn is formally elected as chair. Over to you, Chair.
Thanks, Harriet. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this remote hearing of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Billy Flynn. I'm a councillor for Adler Wharfdale Ward, and I'll be chairing today's hearing. Just before I go any further, I'd just like to remind everybody that today's hearing will be screened on the City Council's YouTube channel. Could I ask the members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves, please? Linda, you first.
Good morning. My name is Councillor Linda Richards and I'm representing Wetherby Ward.
Paul?
Councillor Paul Ray, representing Huntsland Riverside Ward, and as I said just before, Chair, my interconnection is very weak today, so I'm going to keep the camera off to make sure I don't lose connection.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Paul. Just like to start today's hearing by confirming the meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee does meet the requirements of the Council's constitution, even though members of the panel are in remote attendance. While items today will be fully discussed as is normal, remote attendance requires a few slight changes as to how I'll manage the debate. I think most of us have actually done one of these before, so we'll know the way the system works, but the applicant may not be. So if there are any issues at all during the meeting, don't hesitate to stop and ask a question. So could I ask all attendees to, first of all, mute their microphones unless I invite them to speak. It does avoid disruption from background noise. And could all participants, with the exception of Paul, please keep their cameras on during the hearing. And all participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to the public observers who will be involved in proceedings. Please, if you could just ask for your assistance, patience, while I go through the process. Could I now invite officers to introduce themselves and to mute your microphones once you've introduced yourselves. I'll start with Rob.
Oh, good morning. My name is Robert Brown. I'm a solicitor in Leeds City Council's Legal Services. I'm the legal advisor to the subcommittee this morning, and I'm accompanied by my colleague and fellow solicitor, Philippa Murray.
Thanks, Rob. Matthew?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew, part of Entertainment Licensing, and today I'm supported by Samantha Longfellow-Pennicott. Thank you.
Harriet?
Thanks, Chair. Good morning. As I said, I'm Harriet Spate from Governance Services. Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Could I now ask the applicants and their representatives to introduce themselves, please?
Hi, my name's Ed Smith. I'm from Levi Solicitors. I'm appearing on behalf of Sharon Jerome, the applicant.
Okay. I can see you in the distance, Sharon.
Yeah, I'm Sharon Jerome. I'm here with my partner, John Jerome.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Moving on to agenda item 2. Harriet.
Thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under agenda item number 3, there are no items which require the exclusion of the press and public. Under agenda item number 4, there are no late items, Chair, but as you are aware, there is some supplementary information that has been published in relation to item 6, and all interested parties have also seen this, I believe. If you haven't, please let us know. Thank you.
Okay. Could I then ask anybody or members anyway to disclose any disclosable pecuniary interests? I certainly don't have any. Okay. Agenda item 6, application for the grant of a premises license for Calabash Unit C, numbers 231 to 235 Chapeltown Road, Chapeltown, Leeds, LS7 3DX. Could I ask the legal advisor to the subcommittee to outline the procedure for the hearing?
Thank you, Chair. Our usual procedure for this type of application is that the applicant addresses the committee first, and then any other parties who have indicated an intention to speak at the hearing would then address the committee, with the applicant having the chance to respond to anything said by the other parties. In this case, a representation has been received from local ward councillors, although they're not in attendance today. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what's appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives, namely 1, the prevention of crime and disorder, 2, public safety, 3, the prevention of public nuisance, and 4, the protection of children from harm. The regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations, providing the same time limit is applied to all parties who've attended. Our usual time limit is 15 minutes per party. The applicant's representative may wish to split their allocation between their initial presentation and any response to any of the parties or to questions from members. For example, 10 minutes initially and 5 minutes at the end. Can I ask Mr. Smith whether you would like to ask the committee for any longer than 15 minutes for your submissions? 15 minutes should be plenty. Thanks. Thank you. Then a time limit of 15 minutes will apply. After a party's presentation, subcommittee members may wish to ask questions. The time for questions to be asked and answered is in addition to the time limit set for presentations. Please note that we do not permit cross-examination in subcommittee. If any party feels there's a crucial question that needs to be asked and answered, please do not ask the person directly, but instead make a request to the chair, who will then determine whether or not the question should be put. Parties may request permission to call witnesses. Can I ask you, Mr. Smith, if you wish to call any witnesses today?
No, obviously Sharon is around for questions at the end, but no, I'll be delivering on my own.
Thank you. All documents that have previously been submitted have been copied and circulated to the subcommittee in advance. Can I just confirm that we all have the same original packs consisting of a main bundle numbered to 38, together with a further document submitted yesterday, which is a 2-page food menu? All got that? Thank you. It would be helpful when referring to documents to identify which document you're referring to by its bundle page number. And for that purpose, I suppose, if you treat the menu as being pages 39 and 40. Additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of all the parties. Are there any other documents which you wish to table now, Mr. Smith?
No.
No, thank you. Please note your presentation is your opportunity to address the subcommittee. So you need to make sure you've included in your presentation everything that you wish to say and to have taken into account. After you've made your presentation and after any questions, the subcommittee members will go into a private session. If members have any additional questions to ask, they will return to the meeting to ask those questions before going back into private session to deliberate and make their decision. Could you all please remain in the meeting until you're asked to leave? Parties will be informed once the hearing has ended and will be advised of the decision in writing within 5 working days of today. Can I ask if there are any questions or representations about the procedure we propose to follow before we commence the hearing? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Rob. Matthew, would you like to outline the application, please?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chair. So this is in relation to an application for the grant of a new premises licence for Calabash Unit C, 231-235 Chapeltown Road, Leeds, LS7. The application explains the premises will operate as a cafe with an external seating area, proposing the sole provision of sale by retail of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises, and that's going to take place between 12 noon and 11 p.m. Monday to Sunday. So the applicant is Sharon Jerome, and although the report at 3.2 mentions the proposed designated premise supervisor is Sharon Smithen, it is believed that this is the same person. However, members of the licensing subcommittee may wish to seek further clarification on this point. A full copy of the application form is included in the agenda pack at Appendix A on page 11. And the measures that the applicant has offered to promote the licensing objectives are included at Section M of the application form, and that's on page 23. No representations to this application have been received on behalf of the responsible authorities. However, the application has attracted representation from 3 local Chapel Allerton ward councillors. That representation explains that the councillors are representing the views of local residents who wish to remain anonymous, and a copy of the objection letter can be found on page 33 of the report. Finally, and to assist members with the existing pattern of licensed premises in the surrounding area, a list of these premises is included, which includes their licensable activities and their hours, and that's available on page 37 at Appendix D of the report. And that, Chair, is an outline of the application. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Matthew. Mr. Smith, are you going to present the application this morning? Yeah.
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
You're quite happy with the process, yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Lovely. All right, thank you.
And thank you, Matthew, for the introduction as well. This is an application for Calabash, which, as Matthew correctly mentioned, is on Chapeltown Road at 231 to 235. It's a cafe which has been trading under Sharon's stewardship since 2015, and I'm told it's been trading since then without trouble. We've applied for alcohol sales both on and off the premises between noon and 11 p.m. That certainly isn't to say that the premises is going to be trading from noon until 11 p.m. 7 days a week, but the applicant wanted to ensure that she has the flexibility should the need arise to do so at at any day of the week. Following customer requests prior to the lockdown, Sharon instructed me to make an application for the premises license because people have been asking her if they can consume alcohol on the premises. It's a community-driven, independent business, and what they want to do is simply sell alcohol under the guise of the current setup, which is a small cafe premises, which when the weather dictates, which rare as it may be, they'll put out with barriers, some seats in front of the premises so that people can eat and drink outdoors. The reason we're at the hearing today, of course, is that a representation has been made. So my intention in my submissions is to focus on the representation and allay the concerns of the committee, such as they may be arising from that letter. The two licensing objectives which are focused on, seems to me in the letter, are prevention of public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder. I think it's best if I deal with those two separately. In terms of crime and disorder, and I say this with the greatest of respect to the councillors who submitted the objection and to the objectors who have prompted them to do so. But there's no evidence at all in the representation that any crime or disorder would take place were this application to be granted as sought. In my submission, it's purely speculative on the part of those who've made the objection that this may be the case. I'll just take you to the letter at page 33 of your bundles, if I can. And the crucial line is at the end of the third and the end of the fourth paragraph. The residents believe that the sale of alcohol late into the evening will encourage noise, antisocial behaviour and a disturbance to a residential area. And then in respect of crime and disorder, the late night opening of the bar/premises will have a negative impact on children and young people, with the potential to increase antisocial behaviour in the area and on the streets. This is a premises which, as Matthew helpfully pointed out, is sat in an area with a number of other licensed premises around it. I would point the committee to page 31 of the bundle, which is a very helpfully prepared map showing where the various licensed premises nearby are situated. What I'm very keen to add is at page 37, Matthew has very helpfully also put together a list of premises licenses in the area which state the terminal hours for alcohol sales at any one time. Now, the ones I'm very, very keen on are Tracks, which, if you look on page 31, is almost directly opposite my client's premises, has the ability to sell alcohol on a Friday and Saturday until 4:30 in the morning, Sundays 1:30 in the morning, Monday to Wednesday 11 p.m, which is the same hours that my client's seeking, and then on a Thursday until 2 a.m. I'll leave the committee to look at the other hours on there, but it's quite clear that what my client's asking for is it's not even as, shall we say, extreme as what other premises are clearly operating within the area. I run home from the office when I do come into the office past this premises every day, and it's a very, very busy road, as the councillors who submitted the objection will know. I drove past it on the way into the office this morning. There's a bus lane outside, there's traffic there whenever I drive up and down that road, which is more or less 7 days a week. And in my submission, the addition of alcohol sales at the premises, whether it includes the ability for the customers to sit outside the premises or not, will not only not add to any potential public nuisance, but it will in fact be drowned out by the road noise, if nothing else. The letter which has been submitted by the councillors expresses some concerns about potential disorder and potential, what's effectively car doors closing late into the evening. on residential streets surrounding the premises. Without going into the detail that there are no parking restrictions in the area, my clients actually informed me yesterday when I spoke to them that there is a dedicated car park at the rear of the premises, I'm now told, which will fit up to 6 cars for customers there. So that should allay the concerns of residents that there will be car doors slamming outside front doors late into the evening. In terms of the clientele and the customers themselves, the premises is, I say this with the greatest respect to the clientele of the outlet, they're middle-aged and elderly.
So sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Smith. I've paused your time. Chair, we've lost Councillor Ray. I know he said he was having some internet difficulties, but would you like to pause briefly if we can wait for him to get back in?
Yeah, I think that's sensible. Are you happy with that, Mr. Smith?
Oh yes, of course.
I've paused your time, Mr. Smith, and you have 9.5 minutes left. Thank you.
Thanks.
If it's okay with you, then Chair, we'll just put the slide up briefly and try and get in touch with Councillor Ray. That's all right.
Do you want us to turn off our mics and videos?
Please,
Yeah.
Chair. Please.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Councillor Ray, can you hear okay?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. My work laptop completely died. So,
Thank you. Councillor Flynn, if you're around. Councillor Ray's back now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to Paul. Did you miss any of that?
I can't remember what bit I got to before my computer died, but I think I got about 5, 6, 7 minutes into it. So I don't know how long it went on for.
Okay, I think we went on for, was it 5 and a half? Was it 5
It
and a half?
was 5.5 minutes in, 9.5 minutes left.
Can you remember where you
I think I got to the point where they were addressing the objections around proposed public nuisance. I got to that point.
Did you hear the bit regarding provision of car parking at the rear of
No, I did not.
premises?
No.
What about reference to other local premises, tracks opposite? What about the evidence that no evidence that crime and disorder would take place? Mr. Smith was submitting that they were purely speculative. He read from the councillor's letter. He read from the letter of objection.
That's the point I brushed at.
All right. Okay. I don't know whether it's possible to add a bit more time on to Mr. Smith if he's going to have to repeat some of his presentation.
How many minutes should I add on?
As long as it takes, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, do I need to go over again the premises which are nearby? Or did Councillor Ray hear that part?
I didn't hear that part, no, sorry.
Okay.
Car parking and tracks, I think.
Okay.
Sure.
The point that I was making previously is that the hours that my clients applied for, which is alcohol sales until 11 p.m. each day, pale in comparison to that of a premises over the road, which I've no information to suggest has caused any problems. I'll just refer Councillor Ray to page 37. It's Appendix D in the document pack, which shows the various licensed premises in the surrounding area and sets out what their hours of trading are now, as well as just noting that my client's not applied for any regulated entertainment. The hours that really stuck out to me, Councillor Ray, were that Trax is able to sell alcohol until 11 p.m. Monday to Wednesday, 2 a.m. each Thursday, 4:30 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and 1:30 a.m. On a Sunday. Quite apart from that, my client's premises is a community-driven Caribbean cafe, and isn't looking to cause any bother to anybody, to be quite frank. Just to reiterate the point I made as well, if I can ask you to turn to Appendix B, which is page 31 of the document pack, that shows where my client's premises sits in comparison not only to the main road, which is the Chapeltown Road, but to all of the other various licensed premises in the immediate vicinity. The point I was making, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself or if you've already heard me say this morning, but Chapeltown Road is a road I know very well. I live further up in Chapel, and so commute along it every day, sometimes or more often than not on foot. It's a noisy road with buses, and indeed there's a bus lane right outside the premises in question, albeit on the other side of the road. This is a premises which is sat in an area which is going to attract noise anyway. My two submissions in respect of that are that my client's premises won't add to that noise, and if anything, if there were to be any noise which wouldn't cause nuisance in the first place, it would probably be drowned out by the main road anyway. The point I made about car parking, which wasn't reflected in the application but has come to my attention since, is that there's a 6-bay car park which is private for the premises to the rear, I'm told. The objection which has come in mentions car parking, and there's concern, the councillors say on behalf of the local residents, that there may be cars being parked in and around the local streets and car doors slamming late at night. Well, hopefully it will allay the concerns of those residents and those councillors, and to be able to confirm that we've got a 6-bay parking area to the rear of the premises. Moving on to my other submissions, I think we've all received a copy of the menu. Sorry it was late, but I thought it would be useful just so that the committee can look and see that this is a premises which is food driven. Aside from getting my appetite worked up at this time of the morning, it's very clear that alcohol is very much going to be ancillary to what's going on at the premises. It's an addition to the current offer rather than something that's going to be taking over. I'm told by Sharon that this is the menu that was used previously and has been for quite some time, and it's going to be the menu which is going to be used moving forward. What I want to move on to very briefly before I finish is the Section 182 guidance. I'm not sure whether the committee will have a copy of that, but I'm sure either Robert or Matthew will be able to point you to the areas that I'm about to mention. The paragraphs that I wanted to submit today were that Paragraph 1.16 states that any conditions and provisions in a premises license need to be appropriate for the promotion of licensing objectives, and also that they need to be proportionate, justifiable, and capable of being met. Now, I will ask you to turn to the application form, which is at, and specifically page 23 of the bundle, so it's section M, which shows that the conditions which have been offered by my client are quite appropriate, proportionate. In our view, they're justifiable, and in my submission, they're certainly capable of being met by Sharon and her team. You'll see that at section A, we've said that there'll be no external sales of alcohol. This is a point that Matthew and I picked up on last week. The licensing plan, which I believe has been circulated, has a red area outlined for the area for alcohol sales to take place. Now, crucially, the sales are only going to take place indoors. There'll be no external bars being set up and people being enticed as passers-by. Clearly, the external area will be used for the consumption of alcohol, although, as I'm sure either Matthew or Robert will attest to, the consumption of alcohol in itself isn't a licensable activity. Paragraph 1.17 of the guidance will state that each application needs to be considered on its own merits. Now, there's reference in the objection to a premises down the road, which I understand is an off-license shop. My client is the firm view that the provisions put forward in the application are quite proportionate, justifiable, appropriate, and that they should be granted as they've been put forward. However, in addition to that, my client's actually instructed me today that if it were to give any more comfort to the committee, that my client will be prepared to offer a condition that the outside seating area only be used up to and including 10 p.m. each day rather than the 11 p.m. which has been asked for in the application. So almost briefly to summarise really, there are extensive crime and disorder provisions in the application at page 23 of the bundle, and there are one provision with respect to public nuisance, although in my submission the remainder of the application does what it needs to do in respect to public nuisance, certainly with the addition of the car park. The premises attracts an elderly clientele, predominantly who come from the area and will walk to the premises and are based locally. And it's a premises which is surrounded by noise, and any potential disruption will likely come from vehicles rather than anything else. What my client will be prepared to do, just very briefly popping back to the guidance at paragraph 2.21, where it's suggested that if there's any potential for customers, certainly late at night, to leave a premises and cause any difficulty, that whilst my client and her premises can't be held responsible for what customers do after they leave, they'll certainly be prepared to put up a sign which asks the clients and the customers of the premises to respect neighbours and to basically keep quiet as they're making their way home. This is a quiet premises on a busy road. The application is in my submission appropriate and proportionate, and the client's offered additional comforts, hopefully, to those making the decisions today, which will hopefully leave you in agreement with me. And I'll pass back to the chair, and both I and Sharon are here for questions if you need us.
Thanks very much indeed, Mr. Smith. Are you happy you were able to get over all of your points there?
Oh, yeah, plenty of time, thanks.
Are you happy that you received or heard all that needed to be said?
Yes, I am, Chair. Thank you very much for that.
It's just rather ironic that we can fly helicopters on Mars, but we can't get the internet to work in Leeds, unfortunately. Right, Linda, can I move to you first? Have you any questions at all for the applicant?
I mean, the question I was going to ask was about whether the menu which we received was the menu which is actually in existence now. So in other words, that it's a continuation. So can we just have it confirmed that it is a continuation of the existing provision with the addition of alcohol, rather than seeking a sort of a new direction totally in that way?
I understand that's the case, but I'll just ask Sharon to unmute herself so she can confirm that as well.
Yeah, it's going to stay the same menu.
Okay, so as you say, it's mainly food and community driven rather than seeing it as an alcohol-based entity. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Paul?
Yeah. No, that's
I have no questions. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thanks. I've just got one or two linked to the community sort of aspect of the application. I think right at the very start, it seems a long time ago now, Mr. Smith, when we started the thing off. But you did, I think, mention that the request for a license may have been aided by requests from the community. Is that right?
Yes. Well, Sharon's probably best placed to comment on this, but my understanding is that a lot of the customers are from the community, very situated very close by the premises. Sharon, could you add any more comments to that?
Most of our customers live in the area. There are a lot of elderly people that just like to come out just for a walk, really. They all live in walking distance, so they come. I do a lot of soup for the elderly, so they just like to sit and chat and, just for a bit of company.
Okay, thank you. And I think some of the addition, I'm not quite sure whether you meant it to be conditions, Mr. Smith, but you did offer that the outside seating would not be used after 10 o'clock at night, and you were happy to put up signage asking customers to respect the neighbours. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Do either of my colleagues have any further questions? Okay.
A lot of the issues were raised and addressed beforehand, which was good in the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're happy with that, Paul?
Yes, I am, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we're going to move now into a private session to deliberate on the application. Could I ask that everybody stays wherever you're supposed to stay, in the waiting room or whatever, and you'll be called back in so that you, in due course, if there are any additional questions, you will have the opportunity, obviously, to answer them. Just as a matter of interest, we will not be giving the decision today, but you will be given the decision within 5 working days of the hearing today. So we could ask you just to bear with us while we go into private session, and we'll see you hopefully very shortly.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, if we could move into private session now, Andy. Thank you.
Are we all back in?
Chair, yes.
There's Mr. Smith. I'm looking for him there. All right. Thank you all very much for your patience. Once again, my apologies for the breakdown in communication sort of earlier on. The nature of the beast nowadays, I'm afraid. So thank you all very much indeed for coming in today. That concludes the business of the licensing committee, and you will be informed of the decision within 5 working days. So once again, thank you all very much indeed for your contributions.
Thank you, Chair.